At the best of times, the animal kingdom is a harsh place. But for some, harsh would be a welcome respite for victims of these predators because they are cold-blooded killers. Snakes. Silent and still. A prey approaches and they strike. They are one of the most stealthy, deadly hunters on the planet. Great hunters need great camouflage. For snakes, that means colored scales. These scales not only offer the snake protection, but they have evolved into a crucial tool for hunting, especially for vipers, rattlesnakes, and adders.
They've got what they call a rough or keeled scale, which doesn't have that glossy shine to it. It's almost a matte color that allows them to blend in perfectly to the natural environment, allowing prey to wander close enough within range for them to strike out and grab a hold of it.
To hold that prey in place, snakes are equipped with needle-sharp, hollowed-out fangs that can amazingly replace themselves at need.
If one of the teeth are broken in a strike, that tooth would be shed out and replaced with a brand new one.
Even a snake's gums play a special role by keeping those teeth nice and sharp.
The teeth are also covered by a protective layer, gum, which keeps the teeth precision sharp at all times because they need that. They can't have blunt teeth because they rely so much on it, like precision of a hypodermic needle.
The size and position of a snake's teeth differ according to the species. In the case of the cobra, their teeth are small and are located at the front of the mouth.
They're called front fixed fang snakes. So their fangs are always erect. When they bite, the muscles contract around the venom glands, forcing it through the venom duct, through the fang into its prey.
And in the case of the viper, its teeth are long and lethal.
Those guys have got enormously long fangs that lay flat along the roof of the mouth. When they strike out, the mouth will open, the fangs will swing into place, they will dart them into the prey.
But the teeth are just the tip of the iceberg. The snake's ultimate marvel of design is its deadly venom.
Venomous snakes, they've adapted this way of being able to kill and immobilize prey.
Clear or slightly yellowish, snake venom is a highly developed type of saliva that's stored in glands behind the snake's eyes. When a snake bites, muscles around those glands squeeze out the venom through the hollowed fangs and into the unfortunate recipient. Over time, snakes have developed 3 unique types of venom, 3 very different but very deadly weapons. Different snakes have varying compounds in a range of proportions.
Some venoms work very, very quickly, some tend to work slower. Each venom works differently on different parts of the body as well. So you have things like hemotoxins that work on blood. You have things that are cytotoxins that work on blood and tissue cells. You have neurotoxins that affect the nervous system.
But before snakes can bite their victims, they have to find them first. Snakes come very well equipped for tracking down prey. They don't have an external ear, but an internal ear allows them to detect low-frequency sounds, motion, and sound waves traveling through the ground. Snakes also have an incredible sense of smell thanks to a forked tongue that can pick up minute scent particles in the air.
As they pull the tongue in, they wipe it over an organ in the roof of the mouth called the Jacobson's organ, which is a spiral nervous system connected to the brain, sending messages through telling them what they're smelling.
Some species, like vipers, even have an infrared sixth sense designed to pick up a prey's heat signature.
They have heat-sensitive pits around the upper lip that tell them what size the prey is, where it is, and how far it is away from them.
When the prey has been captured and rendered powerless, it's time to chow down. Nothing goes to waste.
The snake will come and find the head of the prey, start to swallow it from the head first. They'll push it down to the stomach area where digestion will then take place. So what happens is everything gets broken down except for anything made of keratin or enamel. So the hair, the nails, the teeth of the prey will come up.
Their special jaws allow them to eat animals much bigger than themselves.
But then their lower jaw is made up of 4 bones, which gives them the elasticity to stretch really wide apart and then use those jaw bones to independently hook into the prey and walk it down the throat.
A venomous snake can take as much as 9 hours to digest its victim. But not all killer snakes are venomous. Some, like boas, pythons, and anacondas, have been designed to literally squeeze the very life right out of its victim.
Every time the animal exhales, the snake tightens. Exhales and tightens. And eventually the animal can't breathe in, and a large number of the time what actually kills the prey is a heart attack because of the shock and adrenaline that they're going through.
They have been around for so long that no one can quite agree when snakes first stalked the earth. But in that time, they have evolved perfect camouflage, deadly fangs, specialized venom, and infrared and motion sensing abilities. The result is a group of predators that is peerless. A true snake in the grass. Some predators make a kill with dramatic flair. But tarantulas? They just scuttle in and get the job done. They're the stuff of nightmares. Long, hairy legs. Fat, bulbous body. Sticky web. Deadly venom. Of the several thousand species of spiders in the world, tarantulas are the most dreaded of all. A creature to be avoided at all costs.
They're found more or less around the world in tropical and subtropical regions such as in Central and South America, Africa, and Asia.
Measuring up to a foot long, the Goliath bird eater is the heaviest tarantula on the planet. While, as its name suggests, it does sometimes go after the chicks of ground-nesting birds, it will more often go after anything that moves, as long as it's small enough.
Anything that is up to their size, insects, small rodents, frogs, lizards, whatever they can get.
Just like the Goliath bird eater, the Brazilian salmon pink bird eater's name is also misleading. It only seldom eats birds and never, ever eats salmon.
The hairs on their body have sort of a rose pinkish color, and that's where they get their name from.
These small distinctions aside, most tarantulas share one important thing in common. They are all highly skilled ambush predators. Like all spiders, this tarantula can spin silk web from specialized structures in its abdomen called spinnerets. But unlike most spiders, it doesn't use that web to actually catch its prey.
In fact, the silk is mostly used for their construction of their own nests, whether it's in a tree or in an underground burrow.
These are not simple structures. While building their elaborate nests, some tarantulas use this silk to set up a built-in home alarm system, invisible silk trip wires. If anything walks into its burrow, it sets off the tripwires and lets the tarantula know that a meal has just walked through the door.
The tarantula will hide and wait for the prey to come close and then jump it.
And it does all that without the benefit of vision.
The tarantulas have 8 eyes, but they can't see worth the beans. They just distinguish between light and dark and some motion.
They're not really capable of forming images and to see depth perception per se.
While tarantulas may not be able to see their prey too well with their eyes, the hairs all over their body make up for it. These hairs are actually organs used to sense the world around them.
Their hairs on their bodies are highly sensitive, innervated in that they are able to detect slight movements and vibrations that may be around them in the environment, such as if a prey is scurrying along in the leaf litter, they will detect those vibrations and know that it is likely to be a potential prey.
Tracking prey is one thing, bringing it down is another. This Goliath bird eater's main takedown weapons are its fangs, which can measure up to an inch long.
Their fangs are hollow, they're connected to venom glands, and they pump them full of venom, which paralyzes the prey.
Like most spiders, the Goliath bird eater can't chew. Its mouth is designed for sucking up liquid food, which means it has to turn its prey into a smoothie.
They do so by injecting powerful venom through appendages on the side of their mouth that are kind of like fangs known as chelicera. These chelicera inject powerful venom that essentially liquefies the tissues of their prey, putrefying it, liquefying it into a slop that can then be sucked up into the mouth parts.
This tarantula, like all spiders, is also equipped with rigid body armor, an exoskeleton that protects its internal organs from damage. As it grows, this tarantula continuously molts, shedding its old exoskeleton and replacing it with a larger one. But when the predator is at risk of becoming prey, it's got a trick up its sleeve.
The body of the tarantula is covered with bristles that are called urticating hairs. They're little barbed hairs, and they will throw them at their attacker, and they cause irritation.
The bald spot on this tarantula's abdomen indicates that it's flicked off its fair share of stinging hairs. Whether attacking or defending, with all their weapons, tarantulas are sure to deliver a hair-raising experience. Usually, an encounter with this blood-sucking predator results in a nasty itch. But sometimes, it can literally suck the life right out of you. Mosquitoes, not just pests, but killers. They have been around for more than 30 million years. Of all the dangerous animals in the world, none has killed more humans than the diminutive mosquito. In the wild, this mosquito can live at best a few weeks. Its life would be even shorter if it falls prey to a long list of predators that include birds, fish, and spiders. Life is short, so mosquitoes must breed quickly. And for that, they need our blood. With mosquitoes, the male is harmless. It's the female we have to worry about.
The female mosquito is our arch nemesis. She's the one who goes out and does all the blood feeding. They feed in order to get the blood, and from the blood they get protein, and from that protein they actually make their eggs.
When she's ready, the female lays her eggs in standing water.
She takes the building blocks of the proteins from the blood meal and she makes them into egg proteins of her own eggs. And those egg proteins then help the developing embryo.
The eggs soon turn into larvae, known as wrigglers. Moving up and down in the water column, these wrigglers breathe through a small siphon located at the end of their tail.
So they'll actually move up to the surface of the water, make connection with the air through that respiratory siphon, get the air that they need, and then they release and go back down into the water column.
The larvae eventually become pupae.
And in the pupal stage, which looks like a little comma, it does no more feeding. It can swim around, it can breathe, but it does no more feeding.
After growing in the pupa, the mosquito emerges at last. like a butterfly would from a cocoon. After the mosquito undergoes this metamorphosis, males will go on to feed on plant nectar until they mate and die a few days later. But the female will immediately go on the hunt for blood to produce eggs as quickly as possible. She is now in full attack mode. To zone in on her prey, the female mosquito relies on 3 key sensors: chemical, visual, and heat. With her chemical sensor, she zeroes in on humans and some animal species with a healthy blood supply by tracking what they release when breathing.
And so she'll detect that plume of carbon dioxide and will fly upwind towards the source of that carbon dioxide.
A female mosquito is able to detect contrast in color and between foreground and background. The more the prey moves, the more easily she will find it. And finally, she uses her sensor to detect a heat signature.
She wants to make sure it's a nice, living, breathing host to feed on.
All that's left for her to do is to stick in her proboscis and bite.
The proboscis on a mosquito is what she uses to bite you with. So there are 2 major hollow tubes within the proboscis made by the stylets.
One of these tubes is for sucking up the blood. The other is used to spit saliva into the skin of her victim.
She actually spits into you an anticoagulant and an anesthetic so that you don't feel the pain and also your blood doesn't clot.
If she were to try sucking up blood without using her special anticoagulant saliva, the victim's blood would clot and plug up her mouth. It's that special saliva that causes the swelling and itching. Most female mosquitoes have only 1 blood meal in their short life before they mate and lay their eggs. But some have 2 blood meals and reproduce twice. This is where things get potentially deadly.
When they take their first blood meal, they can ingest all sorts of parasites or viruses or bacteria. So if a female is lucky enough to get a second blood meal and she picked up an infection from the first blood meal, that's where we're in danger. That in that second blood meal, she could be spitting out the virus, let's say, to the new host.
Pathogens like malaria and West Nile virus. And for humans, things could get much worse.
So climate change is going to affect mosquito disease transmission everywhere, because as climate changes, mosquitoes are able to expand their ranges, normally from southern areas where there are more diseases up to northern areas where there aren't so many diseases, and they'll bring those diseases with them.
For more than 30 million years, the mosquito's adaptations and strategies have ensured its survival and have transformed it into a prolific killer of humans. A monster from the Middle Ages. A vicious predator from ancient Greece. The highest-ranking animal in Chinese mythology, representing power and majesty. At a mere 10 feet long and 300 pounds, Komodo dragons might be a bit smaller than the creatures of lore, but they're still vicious predators. The largest living lizards in the world. They're actually a type of monitor lizard, but got their name after rumors started swirling that a dragon-like creature was living on the Indonesian island of Komodo. When explorers first discovered them in 1910, the name stuck.
They look like a dragon. Big shoulders, big stocky neck, long sleek head. They have that long, kind of like vultures long, slender heads so that they can get inside of bodies, eat the carrion, get the meat, rip it out. Really sharp claws, used for digging, ripping meat off the bones. Very long, powerful tail. They use that in combat, also to get away from predators. They have extremely strong whipping power, and they're just very stocky, made for all-terrain animals.
They're so aggressive and so powerful, Komodo dragons can bring down animals much, much bigger than they are, like deer, pigs, water buffalo, and even humans. They're usually solitary hunters, but can team up to take down a particularly large kill.
They can run very fast in short bursts, up to 11, 12 miles an hour, on a sprint, but they can't sustain that very long. So what they would do is usually they would kind of hide out, wait, by a bush, by a tree. When prey would come through, they usually grab it low by the feet, kind of drag it down.
Until recently, they were widely thought to kill prey by poisoning them. In truth, their victims succumbed to blood loss from their wounds. Then, this fierce predator moves in to finish the job. With their long tongue flicking in and out of their mouths, they collect air and deposit it on receptors in the roof of their mouths. This helps Komodo dragons smell prey from up to 5 miles away. Komodo dragons devour hair, bones, hooves, horns, and all indiscriminately.
They're very opportunistic, so whenever they do make a kill, they do find some food, they can eat up to 80% of their total body weight in one sitting, and then they may not be able to eat again for another week or two, depending on when they can get their next meal. So they basically stuff themselves as much as they can on everything they can, while they can, and then from there, they move on to the next meal.
They've been living on these Indonesian islands for thousands of years, working their way up to the top of the food chain and showing that they've truly earned the name and the legacy of the dragon. From our point of view, these predators are living nightmares. Brutal, savvy, programmed killers. But from their point of view, it's just another day at the butcher's counter.